Hi. So yeah, my name's Alan Ross. I work for a small youth work organisation called About Youth that's located in the Calders area of Wester Hailes in southwest Edinburgh. So kind of the context and the background to our Green Place Scotland Place Changers project was that the community that we're in has a real absence of communal spaces that are suitable for either indoor or outdoor work. It's quite a self-contained community that's surrounded kind of on all sides by either the city bypass or the Union Canal. We operate ourselves from a small community flat that's located at the bottom of one of the high rises in the area. It in itself is a really complex space for using for kind of youth work because of its size. There's been a lot of kind of placemaking initiatives that have taken place in Wester Hailes over the last kind of 15, 20 years. And young people have been very absent from the conversations in most of those. So you can see there from the photo that's just been put up that it's quite a cut-off area. It's very densely populated. It's mostly kind of high-rise or low-rise buildings that are there. Young people themselves don't normally have kind of their own private gardens. So we came together, we made an application for a seed corn grant back in the turn of the year in 2019, 2020. And we managed to start up our first kind of placemaking project just before the first lockdown came into place. And so our project has very much been defined by the last year and kind of how that's impacted young people's relationship with spaces around them. When we started that project back in early 2020, young people were kind of looking at how they could improve somewhere outside in their community that they use. We were very much the main appeal of the fund itself was that it enabled us to make a practical change on the back of it, rather than just sit and have a discussion about what we think should be better without it having any real impact. So when COVID happened, we had to put the project itself on hold. We had to adapt around a lot of the new kind of needs that arose in our community, many of which is the type of stuff that Tony's just highlighted there around kind of food and digital poverty and all those type of things. However, when we were able to resume some level of face-to-face contact with young people in the summer of last year, we found that there'd been a natural kind of refocusing of what the project was about. And the big theme that emerged was young people's relationship with outdoors, principally because we had to deliver any youth work that we were providing for them in an outdoor setting. So we struck up a really fortuitous relationship with a outdoor activity provider who's located in our community, who previously would very rarely had dealings with, largely because when we would normally be running programs for young people, they told us it was very important that they went outside of their community and to kind of leisure and recreational, destinations that otherwise they would struggle to access on their own. But kind of needs must kind of started to dictate what we were able to do, and it resulted in young people developing a connection with a new place in their community that previously, they'd had very little connection with. So kind of when we picked up our kind of project again, we found that there was a lot of kind of new ideas and different issues and themes that had arose naturally as a result of the last year. In terms of our initial seed corn grant, the young people told us that food was something that they came to our projects for, and if we were able to improve our capacity for kind of providing young people with hot food especially, that's something that would be keen for us to pursue. So we were able to purchase a number of kind of items of equipment that enabled us to do that allows us to kind of enhance our provision going forward. However, another kind of major theme that emerged was a desire amongst young people to develop a youth-specific space at this outdoor education provider that we've been utilising throughout the summer. Now, it's a kind of quite an interesting site that's made up of kind of reconditioned shipping containers, but a very well developed kind of outdoor space with fire pits and young people started to, as a result of kind of engaging with our project activities we're doing there, which were often on the Union Canal doing canoeing and kayaking and things like that, young people started to frequent the site in and around Bridgate more as a social space in their community. So we made an application to the Ideas Fund on the premise of looking to develop kind of one of the shipping containers at Bridgate into a youth-specific space. And the young people recognised that that would allow them to have a real anchor in the site there at the Bridge 8 Hub, but also would address some of the kind of issues that we face in terms of the indoor spaces that we use in the community flat that we're based in. There was also a lot of kind of background work that was going on to improve Bridge 8 itself in terms of landscaping work. So it was a way of getting young people actively involved in that. And one of the things that came out of the back of the new relationship was that the development of a partnership agreement between About Youth and Bridge 8 that seek to kind of cement a kind of long-term vision for how the organisations can work together and improve young people's access to not just activities, but to green spaces and spaces in their community. So in terms of how we kind of went about kind of working with young people, a lot of the themes that Tony hit on there in his presentation were absolutely present in the work that we've done over the last year. Engaging young people online was just something that they told us they didn't want to do, for many of the reasons that Tony highlighted. However, we were able, because of the outdoor nature of the project that we were delivering at Bridge 8, we were able to bring together people in outdoor spaces to kind of look at that. So we kind of formed a kind of core group of young people who had engaged enthusiastically with the kind of our summer programme last year. And we worked with these young people to kind of look at how they could develop a space in their community, but how they could also change their relationship to the outdoor space through reimagining it in terms of kind of new games and activities that could take place there. We kind of used a lot of digital technologies in the course of our project to allow young people to kind of map out and kind of put their vision of kind of how the space could be changed. We kind of embraced kind of different partnership opportunities that were on our doorstep to allow us to kind of further young people's vision by linking in with kind of community arts organisations and green space organisations locally who could, you know, filter their expertise and skills into to young people's ambitions and aspirations around the site. So kind of a lot of it's, you know, it's been very stop-start as a project as a result of kind of COVID and the lockdowns that have came in. But, you know, fundamentally, you know, it's one of the few things over the last year that have been a real kind of positive for our organisation and for young people, because the impact of what we're looking to do through developing a youth space at this outdoor education provider is something that will have a kind of lasting impact for young people, in terms of space in their community, in terms of opportunities for them as well. So we're kind of in the process of developing that container at the moment. That's kind of been delayed a bit because some of the building work that needs to be done has been difficult to arrange over the last kind of few months with the different restrictions in place. But you know, we've already got some young people involved in kind of volunteering and gaining some work experience as part of that process of redeveloping that space. But yeah, I mean, I think kind of in summary, you know, our project very much started as one thing and became another thing throughout the last year and a bit. And that's very much kind of, you know, that degree of flexibility and adapting to kind of the different challenges that have come up as a result of COVID and how that's brought up new kind of priorities for young people has been something that's been really effective through our project, because it's enabled us to actually make positive changes that enable them to improve the quality of the community they live in, but also kind of reimagine kind of how they use those spaces.